I just got back from the 2024 AWS Reinforce conference, and now I want to talk about it. Hi, I'm Kyser Clark. I'm a cybersecurity professional, more specifically a penetration tester, also known as an ethical hacker. I have over 6 years experience in the field, and I have 12 certifications, a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, and currently working on my master's degree. Before we dive in the video, do me a favor and like the video, and subscribe for more hacking and cybersecurity content. So I'm super thankful for my employer for sending me out to AWS Reinforce. I wouldn't have went there without them, so huge shout out to my employer for sending me out there and giving me the chance to experience my first ever security conference. And because it was my first ever security conference, I did learn a lot of lessons on the world of navigating conferences in general. So at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about some tips and tricks that you can use for when you get the chance to go to your first security conference. And just in case you're not familiar with the term, AWS stands for Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is the largest cloud provider in the world, and if you don't know about them and you're trying to get in the space in tech and cybersecurity, you definitely need to know that AWS is a huge player when it comes to cloud computing. So this is the AWS Reinforce website, and as you can see, this year it took place June 10th through the 12th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And you might be wondering, what is Reinforce? And honestly, I had that same exact question when I had the chance to volunteer to go to this conference. I had no idea or ever even heard of AWS Reinforce. I actually didn't know AWS had like dedicated conferences. So don't feel bad if you don't know what this conference is. I would say it's not one of the well-known ones, although it was super fun and super fabulous to be there. So I had a great time. And as it says here, AWS Reinforce is an immersive cloud security learning event designed for the generative AI era. Build confidence and skills with interactive security learning, connect with the AWS teams that build the security tools you rely on, and meet AWS customers to learn about their security journeys. You'll return to work ready to navigate the latest tech advancements, including generative AI, automated reasoning, cryptography, and culture security, with actionable steps to improve your organization's security posture. And I will say that that description is a pretty good high-level overview of what the AWS Reinforce conference actually was. And as you can tell, it was a huge emphasis on generative AI. There were so many talks about generative AI. There were so many tabletop exercises related to generative AI. And overall, it was a huge focus area of the conference. And I personally learned a little bit about generative AI that I previously didn't know and things that I didn't even think about. So a huge shout out to AWS for put on the conference and allowing people to have those thought-provoking discussions about generative AI. And generative AI is definitely one of the most overused buzzwords right now, but it is a huge deal. Generative AI is the fastest growing technology in the history of the world. So it is critical that we understand this technology and how it's used and how we can secure it, because there's a lot of data, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of privacy at stake when it comes to unsecure generative AI applications. And since generative AI is becoming such a huge boom, there's so many developers and there's so many companies that are putting generative AI in their apps. One of the Palo Alto talks actually talked about, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but a good portion of web applications are getting generative AI added to it. And because a good portion of web applications are getting generative AI added to it, as a web application penetration tester, I need to understand how to test generative AI, and I need to know how to do things like prompt injection. And another thing that I learned during the conference, there was a talk about the OWASP top 10 in generative AI. OWASP top 10 has been around for a long time, and it's nothing new. There's OWASP top 10 for web apps, mobile, IoT, and probably a few other things. And honestly, I don't know why, but I didn't know that there was a OWASP top 10 for generative AI, and that was a really thought-provoking talk that I sat in, because like I said, as a web application penetration tester, it's imperative that I know how to test generative AI going forward in my career. And then it says, get inspired with AWS customers. My company is a huge AWS customer, and I think that's how my company ended up getting tickets for this conference. And that was another huge focus area with this conference, was to network with other AWS customers and talk about your problems and solutions and how to ultimately secure your AWS environments. Now, I'm no cloud engineer or cloud architect, so this conference really wasn't for me. However, I still got a lot of value out of it, even though that this conference was more geared towards those cloud practitioners and blue teamers. So that begs the question, who is Reinforce for? AWS Reinforce is for anyone who needs the deep, technical, expert guided learning required to raise your cloud security posture and the information for staying up to date on what you need to know today, like securing generative AI. Attendees working in technical roles will find learning sessions designed to help build and integrate security best practices across their organizations. Security engineers and architects will have opportunities to engage with other security experts in learning content design for deep technical skill building. CISOs, CTOs, and other business decision makers will be able to connect with AWS experts and technically validate partners to get individualized guidance on solving organization-specific challenges. Which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about. So the expo was filled with tons of vendors who had cloud security solutions, and they were all definitely trying to sell people stuff. And as a pen tester who's not a blue teamer, I was definitely out of my element there because I kept getting all these people trying to sell me, cloud security solutions, and I don't implement cloud security solutions. I test them. That's one thing I had to constantly say over and over again. I was like, well, this isn't for me because I'm not in charge of securing my organization's security posture. It's up to me to test out other organizations' security postures. I was like, I can't buy this, but if I ran into a situation such as X, Y, and Z, then I would recommend your product. And every time you talk to a vendor or anytime you go anywhere, they scan your badge. And for some reason, I thought the badge was just to keep track of how many people they talked to. But ultimately, really what it was to get your email address and your contact information so they can send you marketing emails. And I wish I would have done that earlier. I definitely would have let less organizations scan my badge. So I know I've already gotten a few marketing emails, and I know I'm going to get a ton more from here on out. And that's unfortunate that that's the case because I am not in a position to purchase any of those products. I can recommend them to people, but I definitely can't purchase them, and I'm not interested in purchasing them because, once again, I'm a red teamer, and really those solutions are for decision makers and blue teamers who want to pitch solutions to their decision makers. So that's what I will say that this conference is good for. If you're looking for like cloud security solutions and you have no idea where to turn, definitely go to one of these conferences. You can demo pretty much every product that's available to you. It also had interactive, in-depth learning. More than 70% of reinforced sessions are advanced or expert level. Explore foundational topics including application security, threat detection, and incident response in depth at the level you need in the format that works for you. And that is exactly what this conference was about. There was content for absolute beginners all the way up to the expert level. There was hands-on learning, there was talks, and there was group sessions, and overall it had pretty much anything that you wanted, whether you're a hands-on learner, a visual learner, a beginner, or an expert. And then there was the keynote, which happened at the very beginning of the conference, and honestly I accidentally missed like the first quarter of it, and then I jumped in kind of late. But honestly, I'm not too worried about it because that whole keynote was kind of a letdown in my opinion because everything was super general. It was very introductory to the concepts, and every time they had an exciting announcement, the crowd didn't cheer. I don't know what I was expecting, but when I hear a speaker say, hey, I'm excited to announce this, I kind of expect the crowd to just like cheer, but they didn't even clap, and it was like a very boring keynote. And I don't think I'm the only one with that opinion, because as I was walking out of that keynote, there was a couple people that was talking about how vague and how boring the talk was. And they were like, I'm pretty sure that they used generative AI to script out this keynote. And honestly, I 100% agree with them. It was pretty boring, it was pretty bland, and there wasn't a whole lot of value in the keynote, unfortunately. With that being said, I will say that the keynote was very nice. It was a huge room. It was a beautiful stage, and it looked good. The slides looked good. It just didn't deliver in the way that I kind of expected. Then again, I'm not sure what I expected, but I felt like it was a letdown overall. Then we have building a culture of security. And this was actually one of the most popular sessions that I attended. And it's funny because I attended it as a very last thing. I was on the other side of the conference and I was kind of away from the main thing. And I was just looking at the schedule of events. I was like, what's near me that I can just see real quick that looks kind of interesting? And this looked to be the most interesting. And I didn't even know this was like one of the main feature things. And I actually didn't know what to do in the meantime. So I just actually got in line like 40 minutes early to this. So I was towards the front of the line, and I was actually very surprised on how long the line for this got. And I'm pretty sure they had to turn people away. And it was a rerun. And they told me the first time they did it, there was a lot of people that was turned away. So that's why the line was so big. And the reason why the line was so big is because, one, I think it's featured here on the main page, so I think that's part of the reasons. But another reason is because it was honestly one of the most valuable discussions that I've ever witnessed in my life. Basically, it was a chalk talk, and what that means is that it was kind of like a presentation, but at the same time, it was highly interactive. It was a crowd of people who can basically just say whatever they want about the concerns when it comes to building a culture of security. Like, how do you get non-security people interested in security? And that's really what it revolved around. There was a lot of value in that discussion, and I guess one of my main takeaways, one of the things I put in my notes, was a good way to get non-security people to care about security is by putting basic security in their job description. Because I'm a firm believer that non-security professionals generally don't care about security. And I kind of cringe when people say security is everyone's responsibility. And I always try to tell people, like, no, security isn't everybody's responsibility. They don't care. Security is security's responsibility. But when people say stuff like, oh, you can put security in a job description for non-security people, and that is one way to get people to care about security because it's literally in their job description. So I thought that was very insightful, and I never thought about doing that before. So that was really cool. And as you can see here, get inspired at the expo, visit the activity hub of Reinforce to learn from AWS experts, demo the latest tech, and connect with the security community. And as I said, that the expo was basically a massive marketing thing, which to be expected, that's what vendors do at conferences. So that wasn't surprising. And it really did have a lot of new tools that you could demo and try out. How is Reinforce unique compared to other security conferences? All Reinforce learning sessions are focused on helping you make the most of your security solutions. At Reinforce, you're able to explore the breadth of AWS security landscape and find the right steps to improve your organization's security posture without distraction. And that last part there, without distraction, is a major fact, because every time I was doing something, everything was kind of chaotic around me, but I wasn't distracted. Like, I could focus on the talk, I could focus on the tabletop exercise, I could focus on the labs I was doing, and I'm the type of person to get easily distracted. That's probably really hard to do, so kudos to AWS. Overall, it was a very fun conference and I had a great time. And if you're wondering if I recommend it or not, it really depends on the kind of professional that you are. If you are a cloud engineer or a cloud architect, especially if you are working with AWS all the time, that conference is definitely one that you should consider. If you're a blue teamer or a cybersecurity engineer, that you could actually get a lot of value out of this conference as well. However, if you're like me on the red team side of things, a penetration tester, bug bounty hunter, red team operator, then this conference isn't for you. And in case you're wondering who had the best booth on the expo floor, it was 100% without a doubt CrowdStrike. And as you can see, they had a fantastic booth, and it definitely outshined all the other booths on the conference floor. When I walked in there, this is the first booth that I walked into, and I actually spent a good portion of my time there. And it's actually the reason why I was late to the keynote, because I was having such a good time. And what you just saw was a huge version of this. So I actually got this little figure here. So this is Scattered Spider, who is a threat actor out in the wild. So if you don't know, CrowdStrike is huge on cyber threat intelligence, and Scattered Spider is a prominent threat actor. And CrowdStrike actually makes figurines for different threat actors. And there was 2 figurines that you could choose from if you spent a certain amount of time at their booth. That's why I spent a lot of time at their booth, because I was trying to get this. But there was 2 figures there, and I chose this one because this is the one that they had display on their booth, and I wanted this to remember my conference by. This figure is honestly a really good way to get people to think about threat actors, because I didn't know who Scattered Spider was, because I'm not super into threat intelligence. And because of CrowdStrike making figures, I learned about Scattered Spider a little bit more than I would have otherwise. So huge shout out to CrowdStrike. I love what you're doing by making figures for the different threat actors and getting people to think about threat actors in a different way. So now I want to show off my favorite swag that I got at the conference, because if you go to a conference and you don't get any swag, did you even go? So first off, we have the main jacket that everybody got. So we have a Reinforce jacket, and it has the shield with 2024 on the right sleeve. And overall, this is a very nice jacket, super high quality, and kept me warm on my flight home. And I'm really excited to have this. I would definitely be wearing this out in the wild. And a lot of people at the conference was wearing this because it is a very nice jacket. So thank you AWS for including this jacket at the conference. And at the same location, they gave us this water bottle. And you can see it has the AWS Reinforce 2024 on the side. And then on the other side, it has Splunk, because I think Splunk was a sponsor of the conference. And overall, this is a pretty nice water bottle. It's not super sturdy. As you can see, I have a dent in here already, and I didn't even drop it, so I don't even know how this dent got here. But it's a good water bottle. Keeps things cool, keeps things warm. It's not super durable. I believe it's made out of aluminum. It's a nice water bottle, but it's not indestructible. Next up, it wasn't a very exciting booth, but they had, in my opinion, some of the best swag, and honestly, probably my favorite swag, and that is GitLab. So GitLab, they had these little plushies here. As you can see, it has the GitLab tag, and it has the GitLab Fox. And I was talking to the people at the booth, and they told me that the GitLab Fox is actually a tanuki, and I didn't know a tanuki was a type of fox. So I learned something about foxes and tanukis, and overall I really do like this little plushie. This is something that I want to be clipping onto my bag, just because I really like it. I think it looks cool. Next we have the GitLab baggage tag. So I actually already use this on my flight home. This is a good way to identify your luggage after it comes out on the carousel, because not that many people have GitLab bag tags. So thank you GitLab for giving me this. This is one of the coolest things that I'm just going to be putting on my suitcase, probably for the rest of my life until this thing like breaks somehow. And the last thing we got from GitLab was the GitLab bottle opener, which is also a magnet, so you can put this on your fridge and have a bottle opener. And this, once again, looks really cool. I'm a huge fan. I don't know why, but foxes are just such a majestic creature to me. And I just really like the GitLab logo, so that's why it's probably my favorite swag that I've gotten. But yeah, this is really cool stuff. Next up, I have a Fortinet mug, which is nice because I really do like mugs because I drink a lot of coffee. I'm going to give this to my friend who is a Fortinet partner, and he uses Fortinet all the time, and I'm pretty sure he's certified in Fortinet. And as someone who has never used Fortinet, he can definitely appreciate this mug more than me, so I'm going to give it to him, even though that this thing is probably one of the cooler things I got, and one of the most usable things I got. And that's the key thing when it comes to swag, in my opinion. Is like, it's got to be usable stuff that I'm actually going to use, and that's really goes a long way for me when it comes to swag. Which brings me to my next point. So I did get some swag that I'm not showing off in this video, mostly because it's stuff that I really didn't like, or it's stuff that I'm not going to use or even show off. So there was tons of other things here. I'm just highlighting my personal favorites of the conference. Now this is something that everybody watching this might be able to obtain, because I actually purchased this at the AWS merch store. And the way I got this was one of the Amazon employees, I'm not going to mention names or even say what booth we were at, but they gave me a $20 gift card. And because of that, I went to the merch store that was on site there, and ended up buying this shirt. So this shirt was $25, and I had a $20 gift card, so I ended up spending $5 on this shirt. Totally worth it because I really like this design. It has the AWS logo on the sleeve here. There we go. And overall, I really do like this glitched logo, this glitched design, and this is actually a shirt that I'm going to be wearing quite often now. And last, and certainly not least, I got this. So for those who don't know, I am a military veteran. I served 6 years in the United States Air Force. And because of that, I was interested in the military meetup that was sponsored by the Warriors at Amazon. So I went down there and talked to some other veterans and the Amazon employee that was running it, and ended up getting this shirt. And I really do like this shirt because I take a lot of pride in being a military veteran. So this shirt for me was really cool. So let's talk about conference tips and tricks that you can use to apply to any conference. And the first thing I want to say is, definitely do not wing your conference experience. So my mentality was, oh, I'm just going to go there, I'm going to walk around, I'll stop at the things that interest me. And that is definitely not the way to approach it. And if you're like me and you're not someone who likes to plan, I highly recommend planning your days out anyways, because that's really the best way to get the most value out of the conferences. And when it comes to planning at your events, make sure you're giving yourself enough time to travel from event to event, because there is a lot of space in between different sessions, and sometimes they're not easy to find. So if there is a session that you are really looking forward to, I would recommend showing up a half hour early because some sessions filled up incredibly fast and a lot of people got turned away from their favorite sessions. So if there's something that you really want to do, you definitely want to show up a half hour early. You want to go to these conferences and you want to network. You want to make friends and you want to meet new people, and definitely do not be afraid to go up and start talking to people. So when I first got there, I didn't have anybody to talk to because my coworkers, I had no idea where they were when the conference first started. So the first breakfast, I found someone who was sitting by themselves and I just sat there, introduced myself, and made a connection. And that same exact thing happened to me the next day for lunch, but in reverse. So I sat at a table by myself. When I sat at the table, I was open to anybody sitting down, and I made a friend by just sitting there by myself, and this person came up to me and introduced themselves, and we had a very nice conversation. And then I accidentally ended up running into them at the reception. I had a really good reception / wrap up party just because I found him and I could talk to him about just random stuff. It was overall a very fun and amazing time, and I'm so glad that he sat next to me because I have a genuine connection now. And I already mentioned it, but the last thing I will say is choose your conferences carefully. In a lot of cases, it's hard to convince employers to get you to a conference. So if you do that, or even if you're paying for it yourself, conferences are very expensive. So make sure you are going to the ones that are going to give you the most value. Like I said earlier, this wasn't the best conference for me, but it was my first conference and I still learned a lot. So it was still beneficial to me. However, going forward, I don't think I'm going to be going to any more AWS conferences unless I truly have nothing else going on and my employer wants to send me. But overall, I'm really going to try to go to the more offensive security / red teaming oriented conferences. And that's all I have to say about AWS Reinforce 2024. If you got value out of this video, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button for more hacking and cybersecurity content. And hopefully I see you in the next video.